legends. Past legends.
We welcome aboard Brett James, Kersbrook legend, obviously Nord legend, and Adelaide dual premiership player, and also Collingwood player. And I'm trying to work it out whether you ended up cracking the 600 senior games milestone, Jamesy. You're certainly very close, but welcome aboard, Brett.
Hi guys, how are you going?
Thanks for joining us, mate.
That's no problem.
We like to start with everybody, obviously playing in the Hills Footy League. Is that where you started your junior career?
Yes. Yeah. No. Grew up on the farm and played. Yeah, for Kersey when I was young. I actually went and played for Teacher Gully. I think when I started, I was 4, playing under 14, so I didn't do much damage.
What started? How come you started so late, Jamesy? Yeah,
I know. Yeah, no. Well, Mum wouldn't let me play any earlier than that. Nah, it was just one of those things. I was just making up the numbers. And then I got to about 7 and I played under 8s and 9s at Teacher Gully. And then I went back and played again at Kersbrook. In the because we only had under 14s back then. So,
and you did play under 14s when you were 5, and you did kick a goal in your first year, Beefy, too. So that's not a bad effort.
As I said, that was I did not took a mark at the top of the goal square and just cleared everyone on the mark. That was about all I was good for back then.
Very good. Obviously, your ambition was to play SANFL football, and then obviously playing at the higher level as well. Did you have those ambitions as a young fella?
Yeah, I was a Nord fanatic. So, growing up, it was to play footy for Nord. That's all I wanted to do. Like, basically, was play for Nord, and probably when you go through my kind of career and that, it's kind of weird when people say that was my aim. And today's generation don't understand. They go, "What do you mean Nord?" But back then, that was the SANFL was as big as any other comp in Australia. So for me, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play for Nord.
And so, Beefy, you played at Nord. So from about 12, you played in a couple under 17 flags in 88, 89, and then played Till Cup under Alan Stewart in 89. So,
yep.
Was that under 88, 89? Was that still staff? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I still had staff. Yep.
So, go through that, Beefy.
Yeah, well, staff's fantastic, coach. Basically, first year I came in, and as I said, coming from the country, I was kind of one of the. There weren't too many to come down from that way, from Adelaide Hills. So I don't know. I was just making it up as I went along to a degree, just trying as hard as I could. And I was just lucky that staff played me a bit all over the place. When I started, I played a bit forward, kicked a few goals, then went back, played back for probably 6 or 8 weeks, forward for a month, 6 weeks, and then ended up in the middle and played there the rest of the year. And it gave me a really good development in actually being able to play pretty much anywhere.
Were you recruited by Nord directly out of Kersbrook?
Well, back then it was Nord's skill squads. So I went back there when I obviously from primary school. So I think I went down when I was about 11, and went through all them like under 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s. Then once when I came out of the 15s, I kind of rolled into the under 17s and played a couple of years of that. Yeah.
What about the Till Cup under Alan Stewart? Of course, Alan Stewart, an extremely well-respected junior coach. How was that experience?
Yeah, well, it was. We played it in Melbourne the year I was. That was in 1989. So we were actually the game before the 89 State of Origin.
Yeah.
So the week before, I think I played in front of probably 150, 200 people at Nord in the under 17s, and when we walked off the oval, there was 95,000 there or something like that. Wow. So it was a little bit different, but we beat Vic Metro that day, and it was definitely a little bit different. We walked off and we had pies thrown at us, and so it was a really good experience being able to played at MCG, Waverley, and a few other Junction Oval, and then we made the final, and we actually got done in the final. When was that? That was on a Friday night at the MCG again.
Right.
Do you
That was when ovals were boggy. Like, we were playing on muddy, crappy ovals, and we were all little fellas. So I reckon 4 games in the week knocked us around a bit.
Do you like the idea of the curtain raisers?
It was awesome. Yeah, for a young guy, playing in front of a big crowd was
absolutely
all you wanted to do. So, it was. I loved it.
And then progressing through, debuting in 1990 for your league debut. Go through that experience, mate.
Yeah, once again, I just got, from 17s, I just got invited to the league pre-season. Just tried my hardest all the way kind of along.
So that was still under Barmy?
I still had my first year was with Barmy. So as I said, as a young kid, you don't really expect to get to. You just see what happens. Just did the pre-season, and I think we had our first. We had a couple of internals, and then we were playing Glenelg at Balranald. The league team were going over there on a bus, and I was lucky enough to make the trip, and that was kind of a fair jump from playing under 17s the game before, and then kind of the next year, and pretty much ended up playing a pretty big chunk of the year in the league team.
And then, so progressing through, then eventually getting picked by Collingwood, but opting to stay the extra year at Nord in 93.
As I said, I had kind of I'll be honest, I had no intention of leaving. I was pretty happy where I was. My aim was to play for Nord, and I was doing that. So I was pretty happy with how everything was going. Kind of before I got drafted, I'd spoken to quite a few clubs, and I pretty much told all of them I wasn't coming. So Collingwood, I didn't speak to, and they obviously picked me up. But most of the other clubs, I just said no, I'm not. And it was a little bit different. A lot of people did that back then. Yeah. Because the lists were bigger, you didn't have to go straight away, and you kind of proved yourself over here before you went over. So, I mean, I think by the time I left, I'd only played 100 games.
Which I think is a great upbringing, personally.
So does that mean that you signed a letter of intent with Collingwood, or were you still
No, when you get drafted, I think you had to be there for 3 years.
Yeah,
right. Like, you're on their list for 3 years.
Right.
And if I hadn't gone that year, I think it would have been like, I would have had to be redrafted.
And then 93, Pete, I'll be honest, so go out and watch, Nord training, and Craigie admitted as well that he sort of got engrossed in the atmosphere. There was good numbers out for grand final training, and
yes,
I can honestly say it's the first time as a supporter we started yelling, "Get him off the track." Now, Beefy didn't worry him. I've spoken about it with Brett since, where some of the other senior guys said they were flat in terms of knackered when they started the game. Mm-hmm. Where Beefy said, "Well, yeah, he was happy as a pig in shit. He was kicking the footy,
yes,
sort of thing." But it wasn't a great day, grand final day. I admit, I think we were in the bar by about 10 minutes of the second quarter, Beefy. I reckon we may have
it was a little bit, as I said, it was just one of those days you just don't want to get grand final day where it's windy one quarter, and they got to kick with it that first quarter, and they kicked 6 or 7, I can't remember what it was. Yeah. It was 6 or 7 to not too much. And when that happens, you kind of, we'd come from the elimination final. Yeah. As I said, it was as much as anything. I think it was that first quarter. I mean, who knows? You kick with the win yourself. That's
fair.
And then you get on the scoreboard and mate, everyone feels good. But when you're chasing tail right from the start, and they were a very good side. So we were coming from fifth, so we would have been pretty lucky to get over top of them.
Yeah, and Weed hurt us. Wiedemann played very well, and I've got to be honest. I was happy for Simon Neve. I thought Simon Neve didn't receive the opportunity he should have at Nord, just personally, and Bruce Winner coaching him. So at least there was still a Nord flavour. We did drink our sorrows back saying, well, at least a Nord person had coached the premiership sides.
I do remember actually being at the, what would it be, the northern end, sitting behind the goals and sinking lower and lower into my seat on that day, so I definitely remember that one. And yeah, you guys did look a little bit flat that day.
Yeah, I mean, we were a very young side. When Craigie came in,
we were young.
He was that 91. He pretty much, to a degree, kept a handful of guys and then pretty much run a heap of young, to boot a lot of young guys, and a lot of guys came and went.
And the prelim final was a bloody good game against Port. So, yeah.
When we beat Port, yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, to a degree, I think I'm only going from memory here, but I think every final they were always pretty tight, and we kind of overrun them. Got on top kind of, in the second half in most of them, I think.
Yeah, no, that's true. So it was a bloody good effort to make the grand final. But I just still thought we probably went over. And then, so you decided to go to Collingwood, and for the first time out of the family business, of course, the James, fifth generation apple farmers up at Kersbrook. Lovely place too. I've got to be honest. When I drove up to your farm that day, James, you're not that far out of town to be country. Mm-hmm. You're sort of city country, your
right
country, but you're not that far out.
No, but that's why
I reckon it was great. That's a compliment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know people that are country, and everyone goes from the country, and I go, I'm a country person, but I'm hardly a country person because in 15 minutes I'm in the suburbs. So, I've got friends from, say, the Eyre Peninsula. They've got a different perspective. They're country. Yes. They're way more country than I am.
No. I thought that day going, I thought you've got the best of both worlds. That was my thought process going up, meeting you at your apple farm that day, where I thought this is sensational, and yet we're still, a decent screw pump from town. So I think it's great. So
yeah, I was only, as I said, it was never too bad. I mean, when I lived in Melbourne, I think it took me long to get to Collingwood, just in general traffic. Than when I was, it was 35 minutes to get to football training, which is nothing if for the time I lived in Melbourne, that was no worries.
Is it a little bit like Geelong? You had the balancing act of obviously being able to come down and play for Nord in the city, but also head back to the farm on the weekends.
Oh no, he was.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he was closer than that.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
What's that? Sorry,
I'm saying you were closer than that. It wasn't. You were probably from your place to Nord would have been 30, only just over half an hour, wouldn't it? Basically.
Yeah, no, 35. Yeah, I'd get there in about 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so as I said, it was never. Yeah, like I said, when people used to say, "Oh, you drive all that way," like a lot of people, went. And plus, when you are in the country, you kind of get used to like driving's not really an issue because you have to do it.
Yeah.
So no, it was never that far, and I always, as I said, it's like playing footy. You go anywhere to play footy. So as I said, I was I think I was lucky to get drafted, picked by Norwood because I think they only changed the boundaries a couple of years before I kind of came through. We were West Torrens before that. So
that's true.
Yeah.
And then when you went to Collingwood, you worked at Vic Park as a curator. So that was something different?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So they had a district cricket team there. And they often used to have, or back then they'd have some state under 21, games there and that type, and second 11 type stuff. So, I used to look after practice wickets and the main wicket, and obviously during the football season, look after the oval and all that. But it was really good fun. I actually really enjoyed doing that.
And you were a pretty settled member of the side under Lee Matthews as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Lee was kind of had grooming me and had a spot, and I was gradually taking more responsibility. Like the first year, I went over there. I had really bad. I'd done all the ligaments in my feet for most of that end of '93. So I actually hadn't done too much. Well, I'd done nothing when I went over there. So my fitness was way behind where it probably should have been. So it took me kind of the first year to get everything kind of heading in the right direction. And then by the second year, most of the time I'd play a little bit, and then I'd play the second half on the ball. So I think he knew I could play around the footy, and I think he was just gradually building me up to where I could handle more time on the ball.
I'm trying to work out personally then, was Alicia there then, or you were moved over to Collingwood?
I only met Alicia when I came back.
Right.
Yeah, came back to Adelaide.
How was it playing under Lee Matthews? Just give us some insight into what he was like as a coach.
Oh, man, yeah. Like he, in terms of speaking, like you just could never fault him. He just, like, obviously, I was a young bloke, but just how he always put words together and yeah. I mean, everyone's probably heard him on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, what he says is pretty much faultless, and it was kind of, I found it that same. Everyone kind of used to say that he was really, really hard, But I'll be honest, while he coached a couple of years there wasn't too often he ever really got fired up. He was generally really cool and calm. Every now and again, if you did the wrong thing, there might be somebody kind of took a bullet for the group to get them up and going. But in general, he was just a really cool, calculated coach.
So a little bit similar to Barmy there, that he didn't go.
Yeah, well, Barmy was the same thing.
Yeah.
I remember watching Barmy.
Yeah,
you'd see him in the coach's box going off, and you'd think, oh, geez, like what's going on? But I don't think Barmy ever really gave it to the group ever. Like the one year I played, and I mean, I was only
very rarely.
I was only a very minor role player, in my year with Barmy, so you kind of don't get caught in the intricacies too much. But in general, Barmy was, the same. He was got his frustrations out in the box, I think.
Yeah. Craigie could go off, but yeah, we'll move on from that.
Yeah, Craigie did go off.
Yeah. And then under Tony Shaw, that was a little bit of a different experience, Brett.
Yeah, I think it was kind of one of those things. Like, sure, he came in and he had a lot of ideas and plans, and I kind of knew by about round 2 or 3, I wasn't probably going to. As I said, Lee, I knew where I was going, and whereas I think Shorey, I remember we'd played the practice games, and I'd been kind of in our better players for all of them, and I missed round 1, and I kind of couldn't work it out. So I spoke to him, and he goes, we're playing a fast team. So, we want to play all our fast guys. So, but no worries. And then I had a reasonable game, obviously, in the 2s. And we played Melbourne, who had Viney and Lovett, who were all, slower guys.
Yep,
so
yep.
I thought, well, I'm a chance here, and didn't get picked again. So I went, well, what's going on? He goes, we're going to beat them with our speed. So I went, well, if you won't play me against the quick teams or the slow teams, it's not, So it was one of those years that, I mean, people have that. Like, as I said, I think Lee kind of was pushing me in a direction where he knew where I was going, and then sure, he just had different plans for me. And, as I said, like, personally, they didn't make much sense, but that was the direction he went. And as I said, like, I didn't agree with Shorey, but, I got on really well with him. It wasn't like we had an argument and didn't get on. Like, that was just his perspective, so not much I can do about it.
No. Now, I did warn Pete before we started. I said when Brett was on it, I said, there's a very, very funny story how Brett ended up at Adelaide Footy Club. So I reckon you better feel, and Pete's been saying he's intrigued by this. So
don't tell me. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Go Beefy.
Yeah, well, basically, Port were coming in 97, so my plan was to play with Rog because I knew Rog was going to be there. So that was kind of my plan going forward, that we'd both end up at Port Adelaide and get to play together. So I went on, and I obviously spoke to Adelaide at the same time. But, went on the footy trip with the boys. We went to Mauritius, and back in those days, we got faxes. So Eddie, our team manager, he came on, was in the middle of one day. I was probably 3 or 4 in the Arvo. He came over, he goes, sign this fax, and you'll be back off to Adelaide. So I was just thinking I'm going to Port because I was pretty confident that that's where I was going to end up. And I'll be honest, I didn't even look at it. I just signed it and then joined in drinking with the boys as we were over there, what we were over there for. And then I spoke to my mum a couple of days later, and she actually goes, you're off to Adelaide. I'm like, I'm coming to play with Rod. And she goes, no, you're at Adelaide. Like,
oh, no.
Yeah, so I had a couple of days where I thought I was playing with Rod.
Wow.
And as I said, back then there was no mobile phone, so unless I read the facts, I probably wasn't going to find out until somebody told me. So, had a couple of days of thinking I might be able to play with my brother.
Wow.
But I'll be honest. I ended up at the right club because we were pretty lucky to be in that situation. the next couple of
And
years.
you actually stood him too at one stage too, I reckon, in one of those first showdowns.
That was
Yeah,
gonna
we
be
ran
my
into each
question.
other a few times, yeah.
So
The head-to-head battle there, obviously something that you relished.
Yeah, well, see, I'm a Nord supporter. I was, like I said, Nord fanatic. So I hated Port Adelaide.
yeah,
Good boy.
Yeah, so I'm even a bit like that. Even now, like Rod's played there, but like even now, like I think Kenny Hinkley and he gets a bad rap, and
yeah.
so sometimes I feel sorry for him, but then I go watch them and they win, and then I have to put up with the hearing, and I kind of go, I wish he'd not. Like it's hard. I can't barrack for him, but there's every now and again I get a bit of sympathy for him, and then someone will say something or do something, and I go, nah, I can't even support you, kind of in any way.
Yes, I know what you mean there. Yes, we look forward to getting Rog on, and hopefully we'll get a little bit out that I reckon Roger's still got the red and blue in him as well and truly. So
yeah, well, as I said, we grew up. That's what we want to do. So it's kind of we were in that probably in terms of age brackets, we were in that group that grew up with a different mindset, probably to everyone from now. From once the AFL started, that was their aim. Whereas we were the last kind of guys that grew up hoping to play AFL.
And then, so your debut game for Adelaide, you played in the middle. It's the only AFL game my wife's ever been to.
Right.
So there's a distinction for you, Beefy.
Good stuff.
And you played in the middle against Brisbane, and you had a pretty fair day out that day.
Yeah, no, it was a good debut. We had a good win. So yeah, first up, it was good to be back home. And as I said, probably every year, obviously, my name was Beefy.
Where did that come from, Brett?
Story gave me that.
Okay.
The first year there, so they were into really heavy weights like that because West Coast had won the last few flags. And they were a really big, powerful side. Yeah. So we were doing massive squats and cleans, and and I had a body that when I started lifting weights, I put on like my leg. I was quite big. So that I got beefy. And as I said, I probably did 6 months of weights, and then I don't think I hardly ever touched the heavy weight again because, I just had one of them bodies that, I bulked up a little bit too much and the game was probably in a changeover where it was, swinging back to being able to run a little bit more. So, so I played, I think I was 88, 89 my first year at Collingwood at times. And like when I finished at Adelaide, I was at 75, 76. So, it took me 2-3 years to kind of, because while you're training, it's hard to actually drop weight while you're still, you're still doing things. So it took me 2 or 3 years to get my body where it probably needed to be. So, that was probably like my first year at Adelaide. That's obviously the fittest I'd been. I probably went, 89 back to 84. By my third year, I was back to probably 80, 81, and then I kind of got back to that 77, 78, and every now and again I'd shed a bit more and get back to that 75, 76.
Was Neil Craig there as fitness conditioning?
Yeah, that was Craig's first year with the running. And as I said, I mean, when I first went over to Collingwood, everyone went, be an AFL pre-season would be hard. But I'd had Craigie.
Yeah.
So I went to Collingwood and it was actually easier than what Craigie. Like Craigie used to flog us. We used to run non-stop.
Yep. Wow.
So the Collingwood one, obviously the weights was a bit different. I'd never done that heavy weights. But in terms of running, excuse me, running was, Craigie used to flog us. So running wasn't an issue,
See, Craigie himself. See, Craigie, we covered this a little bit earlier on a couple other previous guests, but Craigie and Phil Carman used to train up at the Hockey Oval when Kensington Cricket Club were playing in summer. They were the two fittest footballers in Australia. They were miles fitter than anyone in Victoria. Like Phil Carman, they reckon he could have medalled in the decathlon, and Craigie was incredible as well. So,
Craigie, his first year coaching Norwood, like he retired. He played at North and retired the year before, and then he came out and he was coaching, and he still do all the running. Like I'll be honest, he used to flog me. I was miles behind him.
Yeah, he's an incredible athlete. So you came through. So in 90, I still say Malcolm Blight's coaching in 97 after the Crows had lost that first showdown. just to write 18 up on the whiteboard is one of the greatest ever coaching tactical mind games to have done. Guys, it's not the end of the world. There's 18 games to go. And it's, Sean Wren came back the next week and it really worked.
Oh, Blighty was just good because he knew every facet of football and I think it's rare probably that you get you get a coach that everyone actually just believes. You go, yeah, Blighty knows what he's talking about. So whatever he says kind of goes. So it was one of them, all throughout the year, Blighty would say things. And, I mean, the best part with Blighty, even at times, like, Blighty can fire up probably more than any other coach I've had. But, if Blighty overstepped the mark, he would actually come in and apologise. Sorry, boys, that in my era, that's what we did. And probably overstepped it. And you kind of respect him because you knew he was doing things for the right reason and you knew where he was trying to get you. As I said, like, Blighty taught me more than anyone else in terms of just the general knowledge of football.
Yeah, that's how Matty. Yeah, I reckon Matty Robin describes him very well. If you could ignore the personal attacks, which some players struggle with, he was the best teacher you had. And like you think back to about how to tie your bootlaces up and just things like that. You just were so left field. You just wouldn't have thought of it. Yeah,
I mean, Matty's a perfect example of someone who it's kind of weird. I often say Matty could have been an All-Australian centre-half forward, but Blighty made him play at centre-half, stay and play at centre-half forward because that's what the team needed him to do. Yeah. And by doing that, we won we won 2 premierships.
He's very strict in his game structure and obeyed that game bit where Matty had to stay in that inner corridor and wasn't allowed to roam. And
Matty could have taken 15 marks a week between wing and half back.
Yep.
And everyone would have said how good, but it wouldn't have helped us win. So, so Matty did the right thing by, I've got so much respect for Matty because, the older you get, you understand the sacrifices other players make along the way. And it's kind of one of them things, that was for Matty. He got his reward, which helped us all get a reward, but you kind of go, he could have been a glorified centre-half forward and
massively.
Taken that many marks because athletically he was
incredible.
Athlete.
And that was even after breaking his leg. Anyway,
was the pitiful Pittman a bit of notice for everybody there? That was obviously quite public.
Yeah, well, I kind of missed it. So we were playing Richmond, and I was getting stitches at quarter time. So I missed the whole spray. I was getting stitched up, so I missed that one. Obviously, heard all the backlash after the game, but in terms of being there, I missed it all. I was getting stitched up.
But did it put the players on notice though? Did it come out to training the next week going, oh, geez, we better lift our game here?
Oh, it's kind of it's always one of them things. I'm good old mate. You're always having a crack. If you're not having a crack, you're kind of not going to get anywhere. So I mean that's why getting sprays didn't bother me because I always figured I was having to go anyway. So I mean, Blighty gave me a few sprays along the way. And, they definitely, the older you get, the less you worry about getting a spray.
And then
if you're a young bloke, they cause you a bit of grief. But as you get older and you understand how things work, you know where the coach is coming from.
Yeah.
But you kind of go, I get you. And I probably might have to, I understand where you're coming from, but they don't faze you too much.
Yeah. And then so you came back, you got injured, and then you came back right towards the end of the year, played a game for Nord, and then came back in for the grand final.
Yeah, no, I was just lucky. I was just nicked a quad that was, it wasn't even nicked. It was a precautionary one that they said just have the week off because we were going okay, and it was still hanging around the next week in the same spot, and it kind of got to the third week. Because if I'd done it properly, that was my season done. And then basically Norwood, I think, had to bye the last round, so I couldn't play. Then they finished top, so I couldn't play. And before you know it, I'd missed about 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just happened to play. Well, Adelaide won the prelim on the Sunday, and that was I came back and played played for Nord against Port the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Modra got injured in the prelim, and you came in for the grand final. So always said you were the glamour full forward, Beefy. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't really a like for like. But as I said, I was just, it's one of those things. I even remember prep. I remember doing all the work and, with a hope that, we get to finals and you get to play on it. So I remember, there were times when you're just running by yourself and you're going, I hope it's all worth it. But you kind of, how you prepare is the most important part of playing elite level. So I'd kind of done all the work. So kind of once I got there, I wasn't phased. I knew I was kind of match ready to go, even though I'd missed a fair chunk of footy.
And you played well in the grand final after Jamison. You played down back, and it was like you had missed a beat.
Yeah, it was that's the only time I played in the back lines all year. I basically played as a midfielder and up forward. But that's probably one of those things. Craigie, he started playing me in the back lines when he took over, so it was allowed me to kind of play, any position on the field. So they threw me back in the second half mainly, and it was a pretty good day.
Look, great day, but then your professionalism kicked in, and we'll get to your Hall of Fame speech, which I was privileged to be at. You really wanted to play on a Nord flag, and you were switched on big time very early in the week, probably a tad more than the certain ruckman who managed to play them both. I think your preparation was a tad more professional than Keats, and and away you went.
As I said, that was my aim growing up was to play in a premiership at Norwood. So I was just lucky enough that I think Norwood beat Centrals on the Sunday. So I remember watching that out at Wavell, and I'd had a few obviously on the Saturday and the Sunday, and then it was pretty easy. I just stopped on Sunday night and went to work Monday, and I remember I reckon I was clutching sheep on the Monday, and then went to train on Monday night and just had a normal week. So missed out on all the celebrations.
I don't think Keats did. So.
No, he didn't. But as I said, growing up, that's probably people probably don't understand that.
Yeah.
But like Nord's premiership in some ways meant
yes.
I always say it wasn't as big an achievement as perhaps the Adelaide ones, but in some ways it meant more because that was growing up. That's what I wanted to do. So it's kind of a weird thing. It definitely wasn't as big an achievement as the two Adelaide ones, but for me personally, getting to play with Roger and those type of things, that was it probably had a different feeling to it.
The cherry on the top.
It was, as I said, it was a pretty good couple of weeks.
With just going back to the Adelaide Premiership there, Shane Allen obviously up forward. Was that something that had been pre-planned during the week, or is that something that came about last minute?
No, Blighty kind of done it during the week. I've heard Blighty talk about it. He said he'd watched Shane O play at full forward a couple of times for South, and he thought he led at the footy pretty well. So it was kind of one of those, a little bit out the box. I mean, it's kind of weird. I think Shane O might have
kicked two at full forward and three from a half-back flank.
He kicked most of them from down back.
Yeah,
he kicked most of them when he shifted down to half-back, where he generally played. So, no, as I said, Shane
it's quite bizarre that he kicked. Everyone says, what a great move playing Allen at full forward and kick five. Well, no, he actually kicked three playing on a half-back flank. So,
What was it like watching Darren Jarman go to work?
Well, we'd watched the week before. It was a bit the same. We were watching, obviously, when they played the Bulldogs. It was a bit the same. We'd kind of conceded defeat and put the white flag up at three-quarter time. We were watching all the injured guys were watching at Football Park, and we'd almost thought, where are we going for Mad Monday? Perhaps we were all, that was the chat at the time, what's going to happen? We might as well start organising Mad Monday because we were 6 or 7 down, with not much to go. And then Charles just did what he did and, got us over the line, and he did it again basically the next week.
Yeah.
Was he as laconic on the practice track as he was on the ground? It seemed he was quite laconic on the ground.
He was like Jars. He was very, but he was also the most competitive. If you play anything for Jars was serious, but if you were just mucking around, it was just muck around. But once you start playing for keeps, Jars was pretty serious with things. But he liked playing. I wouldn't say he liked training, but
No.
once you start playing, Giles was he was there to play.
Yeah, no. I was at Crow's training one day and down there, and he did make a couple of comments to me. He wanted into training, Fudd. So
he's one of the few people that could probably have that attitude. You know, like us average guys. If we went out there with that attitude, we wouldn't be even close. His ability was just ridiculous.
Isn't it amazing that Blighty had the same sort of relationship with Darren Jarman as he did with Gary Ablett Senior?
Yeah,
about the training.
Extent.
It's just amazing that he allowed that to happen the way it evolved, and those guys got the best out of themselves.
I mean, Fudd did everything.
Yep.
Yes,
exactly. Didn't really like. He just did what he had to do.
Yep.
Whereas, as I said, I think Gary might have missed a few sessions. But like I said, Fudd would never miss sessions. No. He always did everything. But I wouldn't say he liked kicking the footies. I wouldn't say he liked running, but he liked kicking the footies, and anything to do with playing, he loved.
Then he was away. That's a better description. He was just he wasn't a footy nut in terms of doing extra. But geez, in terms of skills, he'd still practice kicking for goals till the cows come in, but not just otherwise. And move on, and then 98, you because Nord you weren't playing yet, you had the chance to probably soak that one in and enjoy it a bit more.
Yeah, I did. I had the full week where we got to sit back and really enjoy what we'd done. So and I said probably the first. A few of us said when you won the first one, I don't think you really appreciated what you'd done like initially, and then it was. Then you got back to Adelaide and you went, wow, it was pretty special. I'd love to do that again and probably soak it up and appreciate a few different things. And to be able to do it the next year was just something you dream about. You don't expect it to happen. So
you kicked. Beefy kicked an incredible goal in the prelim final, and a few Western Bulldogs supporters are trying to say where it had come out of the lemon and SARS, and let's just say a few of us were Nord supporters, and we put them back in the spot, Beefy, and just let them remind it was just a red leg magic coming out, mate.
No, it was us, mate. it was hard, mate. I threw it on the. I mean, you know where the goals are, but you just throw it on the boot and cross your fingers, and when you have them days, it went through. So
don't worry, we just wanted to play along with it. Yeah, no, we just played along with it. Yeah, don't worry, we used it to our utmost advantage. And then so moving on, probably. I think it really surprised us that your career at Adelaide sort of came to really a bizarre, abrupt halt. It didn't seem to make much sense from the outside with 2000.
No, we just probably a bit like Shore, just change your coach. And I was at that 27, 20, and it's one of I always say, whenever you speak to anyone, I go, once you hit 27, 28 and you're a 5'10" midfielder or pretty much anyway, if you're 27, 28 and you're not as like one of the top superstars, and if your team's not going anywhere, you're in a bit of strife because they're going to be playing young kids.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit. I mean, I kind of knew that, but as I said, my form and all that was, when you're playing, it doesn't make much sense to you. But I understand how they set up lists and do all that stuff. But in terms of how I was playing, kind of. My form was as solid as it had been in every other year. So.
And then you went back to Nord and just dominated in terms of best and fairest in 02, 03 and 05, captain 02 to 06, but unfortunately there wasn't much team success, Beefy. It was a frustrating time as a Nord person, mate.
Yeah, it was. When I first got my first couple of years back, we were around the mark. But, I mean, there was a couple pretty, like Sturton Central were pretty good teams and like that, so and they just knocked us over in a prelim and we're probably not stiff. They beat us pretty comfortably. But we were kind of an older group probably by then. And then once we got beaten in the prelim, a heap of guys stopped. And then, then we bottomed out a bit for the next few years. It was just one of those tough years. We had some good players. We just probably didn't have enough depth. That was probably our biggest issue.
And then you returned to Kersbrook, and really, we could virtually do another whole interview on Kersbrook because you've played you've played 240 odd games you played 234 games for Nord, 118 AFL games. Now, I did try and do some Googling. The Kersbrook page I found pretty hard to navigate today. And you were 221 when I wrote the article on you. So do you know what your end games tally was at Kersbrook?
I didn't play much the last few years. I would have been 230 or 40 probably, somewhere along those lines.
So you've ended up on 500. So you've ended up on about 585 to 590 senior games of football. It's pretty.
Yeah,
it's an incredible.
I would have cracked 600 because I probably played I played a bit of reserves at Collingwood and And my first year I played 7 or 8 games into it. So yeah, I would have cracked 600 easy enough.
Now there's probably another 2 that we've got to add to that. You were involved in the 1998 State of Origin and 1990 State of Origin teams.
Yeah, I said personally, they're probably I kind of hold them up as my personal biggest achievements that I had, like making those 2 teams. Like once again, when you're a young kid growing up, and in the 80s, you go, gee, I want to be able to play a State of Origin. So to be able to do that for a couple of times, like personally, as a milestone for like something that I was aiming at, to tick those off was a pretty big highlight for me. Who
was your favourite player to play with in those State of Origin years, say in 1998? Because obviously you get to play with a few players from other clubs. Who was the one that stood out for you?
Well, it's kind of weird because Craig Bradley was a Port player, so you know how you go, he can't be a good bloke. Yep. He was and he was an old veteran, and I'd played on him and he just run non-stop. And to chat to him, he was the nicest bloke ever. So I always say, out of all he was fantastic to talk to.
Yep. Now, back on the Kersbrook, so 5 flags, is that correct, Beefy? Yep. So 5 flags, 15 years. So as I said, 240 odd games. You know, and the James with Paul kicked a lot of goals as well, and of course Roger kicked 20 odd one game as well. So it was a real James family and a family. You know, obviously you're involved as the 5th generation apple farm there, huge part of Kersbrook. So that obviously meant just a hell of a lot as well. And I really wanted to emphasise that because in terms of how much the Kersbrook Footy Club means to the James family.
Yeah, well, we were lucky enough that when we left, we kind of to a degree left, stopped playing there. I think my last game for Kersey was, what was it, under 7. I was 14, I think, when I left, and then started playing at Nord, the next year. So I didn't go back. I played my first game, so I think A-grade game for Kersey when I was 35 or heading towards 36 that year or something. So, I always said I was going to go back. It just took longer than I thought. Probably when I left as a 15-year-old, I didn't think it would take that long to get back. But, I had a lot of fun along the way and, got back and, just enjoyed being at it. You play footy because it's good fun and you get to spend time with your mates. So I kind of got to do that at the end.
And being elevated to the Nord Hall of Fame night, as I said, privileged. And I mean that word very much so, to be there that night. And it really came out in how emotional you were to become become a member of the Nord Hall of Fame and the 97 flag, and that your speech that night was absolutely superb, Brett.
Yeah, as I said, it's just one of them things. You kind of don't expect it. Yeah, you play footy because you love it. You don't kind of expect accolades like that. As I said, it was it's one of those things that just comes along. But as I've said a lot of times, I was a Nord fanatic growing up. So anything to do with the Nord Footy Club, I was always pretty happy. Pretty happy to be around the place. So that type of an accolade was the icing on the cake.
I did keep reminding Brett that night that he was married to Alicia that he was going to star in the next episode of Batting Above His Weight too. And look, we did have a bit of fun on Saturday too, Beefy. You're you're runner for Nord under 16s, and I knew Archie was playing, and I admit that's the first game I'd seen Archie play, and I didn't realise how tall Archie was. So
how did that happen?
Yeah,
so I'm walking along, in the members' stand, and so I see Brett, and I've gone blood test, and Beefy's just turned and gone, lucky he's got my mannerisms, Malcolm. And there was some shocked look on these Nord supporters' faces, like, how dare someone say that? Not knowing that I know get on really well with Alicia. Alicia, Brett's wife, I love it. And she is pissing herself laughing, and she's gone, height comes from the grandparents' side, Malcolm, and sat down and spoke to Alicia and all that. And people then realised, no, he does actually know the James family well enough to use that line. Yeah, so it was a bit of fun on Saturday, mate.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, he's a lot bigger than I am. So, I'll be honest, I wish I had his build.
Yeah,
it would have made life a lot easier rather than being the runt everywhere.
No,
being the runt of the litter.
He was good on Saturday too, and I thought that's the best I've seen our 16s play for the year on Saturday too. So
16s we were really, really good. We've been talking about pressure, and that's the first time they've really been able to do it for 4 quarters. So it was a really good result, and hopefully we learn a bit from it.
And now we just got to wait and see with the college changeover. So there's probably be 10 or so changes to the sides this week, at least. So
the next few weeks, things change a bit,
Mate, we'll get you out of here on this one. I've done my homework on some of your coaches that you've been involved with, and boy, oh boy, it's a star-studded lineup. Neil Craig, Russell Ebert, Graham Corns, Tony Shaw, Lee Matthews, Neil Baum, and Malcolm Blight. That's a pretty fair resume, mate.
Yeah, I think, But I made the SA Hall of Fame, and that was in my speech. That's what I actually spoke about. I go, when you kind of grow up, you saw these absolute legends of the SANFL, and to go through it, and I think Barry Rodman was the team manager, or not team manager, main selector when I first played for South. Like things like that, you get to meet them and all that. So to meet all those people, it's just, you pinch yourself, and that's, it's kind of, was funny. They're all fantastic people. All the contact I had with all of them, though, you just go, they could play footy and they're just really good blokes. So that's kind of out of footy. You pinch yourself, some of the people you get to meet.
Would you pick one out of all of them that you bonded with the best?
It's kind of weird. Probably, we had a fair bit of success with Blighty. Craigie and Blighty probably taught me the most in regards to footy.
I know Rhodey as well. Peter Rhodes should have got better mention there as well. Yep.
Yeah, see, because I played obviously the premiership with him, but I was at Adelaide. I only played.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fair
a handful. I played 4 games or something. I think with Rhodey, I was just lucky that you only needed three to qualify.
Yeah.
So I think, so I could never judge Rhodey too much, because when you came in, he said just play to a degree. But I said probably Blighty and Craigie taught me the most. And I said in terms, Blighty's he treats footy like it's footy. He just knows how it all works. And probably if you spoke to me, I'd be saying all the things Blighty says to a degree, because that's who I listen to the most, probably.
Yep, that's fair. And
obviously you're coaching at Kersbrook. Were you able to use some of those speeches and tactics from some of those great guys?
Yeah, that's I always say the best way to coach is actually to teach. If you teach your players, then you try to a degree put yourself out of a job. Like if your players understand what to do in all the situations, that means you're coaching. You're coaching well. So I always said that with Blighty probably taught me little things that you need to do. Starting points and all that type of stuff. So that when I coached, I used to do the same thing to my players. I'd be trying to teach them so they actually knew the game. Once you know the game, you kind of understand when it works for you and when it doesn't, and what you're getting wrong. So I think that's probably the best thing Blighty did, because he taught you the game. When things didn't work for you, you kind of knew why. When it did, you kind of could understand why things, and it probably helped you adjust along the way.
Oh, Brett, greatly appreciated, mate.
No problem.
Look forward to catching up. I'll probably catch up with you on Sunday as well. So, yep. And thank you. And we'll certainly try and annoy Rog to get him on as well. So, greatly appreciated, Beefy. Thanks, mate.
No problem. No worries.
Thank you, Brett. Have a good one.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.